Doctrine of separation of powers, meaning and concept. The doctrine of separation of powers is an important principle of constitutional law and administrative law. It seeks to prevent the concentration of governmental powers in a single authority. The powers of government are generally divided into three organs: legislature makes laws, executive implements and enforces laws, judiciary interprets laws and administers justice. The doctrine may have three different meanings. Separation of personnel. The same person or set of persons should not form part of more than one of the three organs of government. This helps to maintain a distinction between the legislature, executive, and judiciary. Independence of each organ. One organ of government should not control or improperly interfere with the exercise of the functions of another organ. For example, the judiciary should remain independent of the executive so that judicial decisions can be made impartially and without governmental pressure. Separation of functions. One organ of government should not exercise the functions assigned to the other two organs. Thus, the legislature should primarily make laws, the executive should implement them, and the judiciary should interpret laws and administer justice. Predominance of the legal spirit. The third meaning of the rule of law relates to the predominance of the legal spirit. Dicey stated that in England, constitutional principles are not the source but the consequence of individual rights as defined and enforced by the courts. In other words, individual rights are protected through the ordinary courts, and constitutional principles have developed through judicial decisions recognizing and enforcing those rights. Separation of legislative and executive powers. Montesquieu stated that if the legislative and executive powers are vested in the same person or body, there should be a danger that oppressive laws might be enacted and then enforced by the same authority to achieve its own purposes. Therefore, legislative and executive powers should be sufficiently separated to prevent the abuse of governmental authority. Separation of judicial and executive powers. If judicial and executive powers are concentrated in the same person or body, there would be a danger of arbitrary administration of justice. An independent judiciary is therefore necessary to ensure impartiality and objectivity in the administration of law. Concentration of all three powers. Montesquieu further argued that if legislative, executive, and judicial powers are concentrated in one person or body, it would result in a despotic form of government. The separation of these powers is therefore necessary to prevent the excessive concentration of authority and to protect individual liberty. Importance of the doctrine. Prevention of arbitrary power. The doctrine prevents the excessive concentration of governmental power and reduces the possibility of arbitrary exercise of authority. Protection of individual liberty. The distribution of governmental powers among different organs helps protect the rights and liberties of individuals. Judicial independence. The doctrine emphasizes the importance of an independent judiciary, which is essential for impartial interpretation of law and administration of justice. Conclusion. The doctrine of separation of powers seeks to ensure that legislative, executive, and judicial powers are not concentrated in a single authority. Montesquieu's theory was primarily aimed at preventing tyranny and protecting individual liberty. In modern constitutional systems, the doctrine generally operates through separation of functions institutional independence and checks and balances, rather than through a complete and rigid separation of powers.